Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Growth Maestros. Today, we have a very interesting discussion on the topic from strangers to fans, unleashing the power of personalized customer engagement. To shed light on this topic and to talk a bit more about personalization and customer engagement going hand in hand, we have with us Mr. Ahmed Mustafa, head of performance marketing and growth at Money Fellows. A bit about our guest. He's a marketing guru with over 14 years of experience. Having worked for companies like Connect Ads, Group M, and Money Fellows, he's someone who's driven by KPIs. Throughout his career, he has worked towards bridging the gap between product and marketing, and as a result of which, he's been able to help a lot of companies achieve holistic growth and real results. Welcome to the podcast, Ahmed. It's a pleasure to host you.
Thank you, Shiji. The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Thank you so much for giving us
Yeah,
time during your Eid holidays. So really
yeah,
obliged. Before we kickstart our discussion on personalization and how it has enhanced performance marketing as well, why don't you, for our listeners, give a bit of a brief about your professional and personal hobbies?
as you said, I've been working in the digital marketing career since 2009, actually. It's like 14 years for now. I worked in direct clients and agencies and supplier side, and currently in startups. Uh, I think that I've managed a lot of clients with very high budgets and also clients with low budgets.
Right.
Uh, I've seen a lot of things in the industry. I think I saw ups and downs and clients that were extremely spending and want a very quick growth and numbers and are extremely driven by KPIs. I also managed clients that would like to do more branding and awareness.
Right.
So I think that yeah, I've seen a lot in those 14 years in my career, and this is my passion actually. I've always been in love with marketing and specifically with the digital marketing. uh, Before it is something that is extremely trending currently, and people are all looking at the marketing and the AI and how can we use this to gain money or to make investments or whatever. Before this, digital marketing was much more simpler, much more less complicated. But for sure, with the technologies that that are happening currently, and with all the tools that we are having currently, it's a whole different story.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned about your love for digital marketing and marketing per
Yeah,
se. We'll get to that definitely. But just before that, talking about personalization, the theme that we are discussing, and personalization as a concept is not new. Brands globally are using personalization, and it has been there for some time, right? But just for the uninitiated, from your experience or your point of view, what is personalization? How do you define it? And just to add on, what are some examples or tactics of personalization that you see today, maybe from a
Mm.
professional lens or also from a customer lens?
Yeah, sure. Actually, this is a very interesting topic, specifically currently in the time being, where every advertiser is looking for personalization. But I do believe that since the rise of digital marketing, usually the clients and the agencies and also the platforms were looking to do the personalization, but they didn't have the tools or the data or the know-how to do it. But in our time, the personalization took a very different turnaround because it became an essential to digital marketing. And to make it very simple, personalization, it is the the practice of the tailoring the marketing messages, the content, and the whole experience to meet the needs of individual users or your target segment. This is a very simple definition of personalization. It is personalizing the experience for the user, either from an advertising level or from content and behavior level. So this is personalization in a very short term or a very short explanation for it. There are for sure are a lot of tactics for doing personalization. There are some things that are very popular. There are some things that not all the people know about. I will try to make the explanations as simple as I can for everybody to relate for what I'm saying or to know how to do it. The most important thing, I guess, in the personalization is the dynamic content. It's customizing your website content, your email shots, and your ads based on the user behavior and the demographics of the user. This is the first step in the personalization, or this is the first tactic in the personalization, actually, the dynamic content. Also, the behavior tracking. Behavioral tracking is collecting and analyzing the data of the users to understand their behavior and their history of purchases, if they have done purchases on your website or on your app, their interests, their engagement patterns, everything related to this is considered behavioral tracking. Yeah.
Right.
Also, the email personalization. I think this is a very important tactic in the personalization itself. The email personalization is using the segmentation that you have and the user data to send personalized emails to users. It can be a direct selling emails, it can be a follow-ups, it can be a retention. You can use it by the whatever the way you like. And usually it's one of the most common tactics in personalization. It is the email shots or the email as a tool. Also, I can say the retargeting. Retargeting also is one of personalization's tactics, which is displaying the targeted ads to users who have previously visited your website or shown interests in your brand or product or service. I think all of the digital marketers currently know about the retargeting and how to use retargeting to increase their sales and their customer value. Retargeting is a very big topic. I think it might need a podcast, a standalone podcast to talk about retargeting. Yeah, but retargeting is a way of a tactic of personalization.
Hmm.
We have also like personalized recommendations.
Yes.
Also, it is utilizing machine learning to give recommendations that are personalized to users. Most of the apps, specifically the e-commerce and fintechs, also are doing this nowadays, personalizing recommendations to tailor the recommendation to the exact same user. And this is something that is extremely powerful and can lead to very solid results.
Yep.
The landing pages also can be personalized, as you know for sure. You can create customized landing pages for a targeted specific campaign, for example, or for a specific user segment. I think this is in short some of the tactics of personalization, and I think that every tactic from those can have a whole episode for it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. No doubt about that. And hopefully we'll have a series on these from you and know your opinion and experts on this. But moving on and taking points, the tactics that you mentioned, right? There are a couple of tactics that are there when it comes to personalization. And if I just superimpose that with your, professional trajectory that you've had, so you've from your experience, what we could see was you've worked with a couple of agencies, and now you are part of a fintech ecosystem. But going back to your agency days when you were possibly interacting with a lot of companies from different verticals, right? So the use cases that you mentioned right now about personalization and where all it can be used, was it the same for all the industries in terms of use cases, or were there any dissimilarities in terms of use cases when it comes to personalization?
Actually, From my point of view, it differs from industry to another. In retail, it is slightly different than fintech, for example, because in retail you have specific items for personalization, like you do product recommendations, for example. For retail, you have hundreds and of thousands of products, so you usually do a lot of personalization to show the users the most personalized product for them. Offers and discounts also are very important in the retail industry, because it is something that will make the user
Right.
take action, and it
Yes.
should be extremely personalized. So I think the landing pages it is common between many industries, that you have to personalize your landing page. This is very important. It has to be relevant to what the user have saw before or clicked on an ad saying something. So the user have to land on a page that is saying the same thing. And if
Right.
this thing was a personalized thing, then you did a great job to make the whole cycle personalized, your whole cycle. I guess in fintech, things are a bit different. It is a very aggressive industry, actually, kind of new also, because we are seeing the rise of fintech currently nowadays. A lot of startups and a lot of industries are shifting to fintech. So I think that it is a kind of new to the market. But if we talk about personalization in fintech, I think that you will find a lot of similarities between the normal personalization, but you can add some items in your personalization in fintech, which will
Absolutely.
make a lot of difference, like the advices. For example, fintech industry, as I said, it's an aggressive industry, and people before investing in fintech, whether it is lending startup or doing credit scoring, or doing something like peer-to-peer lending, for example, or Bitcoin, or something that you can buy from a fintech startup. The companies should use the personalization to provide tailored financial advices for the user before
Yes.
the user take an action. The advice here, or the educational content here, is extremely important, because, as I said, fintech is different than e-commerce. For example, in the e-commerce or in the retail, you catch a product and you can research for a product, this product, and the price is okay, so you do that transaction. But in fintech, it is a bit more difficult to do that transaction, actually. So you have to provide more educational content, personalized content that is kind of educational. Also, you can target a specific financial products, because fintechs usually have a lot of products, like cards, maybe like buy now, pay later, like requesting for loans, or bank accounts for the digital banks, for example. So by personalizing those products based on the user profile, or the user financial profile, actually, you will get for sure better results. Also, something that is very important in the fintech, it is the risk assessment and the fraud prevention, because there
Right.
is a lot of fraud in fintech. As you know, people are subscribing for credit cards, but they are not eligible for having this, or loans, or whatever the product that they are
Mhm.
subscribing for. So by personalizing this journey, I think that you will elaborate, or you will have more info on your user before the user take action, and you can detect his risk level and his fraud level, if he will be a user that can make lots of purchases, or if he's a user that is not eligible from the beginning to make this purchase. So you can make a more clear and tactical action.
Understood. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for this. And I think you elaborated the use cases, different use cases that different industries see, especially in terms of retail and fintech. Understandably, since you're associated with a fintech right now, and moving on to
Mhm.
that, and probably touching upon the things that you mentioned earlier in the answers. But since right now you're part of a fintech ecosystem, right, and you take care of the performance marketing there, and performance probably the most dominant channel when it comes to brand visibility, right?
Yeah.
uh, right, so with the proliferation of technology and so many channels which have come into picture now maybe 14 years ago you may not have seen these many channels, right? So how do you
Mhm.
prioritize in terms of which channel to use for which customer? And just to add on to that, if you could just let us know some kind of vanity or actionable metrics that you monitor while you are using those channels, or going towards a brand awareness campaign or something of that sort.
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, regarding the channels, I think that we are seeing millions of, of channels actually nowadays. They are endless. You have channels from the normal display advertising channels, native, programmatic. You have the dynamic retargeting. You have social, for example, with all of its channels. Uh, I think that there are endless channels, and you have to be very clear on your objectives because it differs. Your objectives will differ on what channels you are going to be using, because you don't have to waste a lot of budget exploring all the channels there, and making tests and exploring another channels, because there are very similar channels that are doing a similar thing. Uh, so it is like a trap. You have to, especially if you have a big budgets, you
Right.
will be having nightmares regarding the channels that you are missing and the channels that you are should be using. Me myself, I've used over 60 or 70 channels in the last 2 years only, and I can say that the similarities between channels are very obvious, and really don't have to test every channel out there. There are a couple of channels that, or platforms that really get results and that are working in a very systematic way, and doing programmatic, for example, advertising very good. So I think that you can go directly to the channels that are matching with your objectives and that
Right.
can get you the desired results that you are looking for. And regarding the matrices, I think that in every industry you have the normal matrices, or we can say the old school matrices like the CPC and the cost per click and the CTR and impressions and everything. But if you go into the performance more deeply, you will have to look on other matrices like the conversion rate, for example, which is the percentage of users who take an action on your website or on your app. The CPA also is
Yep.
one of the most important matrices, which is the cost per acquisition, the average cost that you acquired to get a new customer, or a lead, or whatever your business is looking at. The ROAS, which is the return on ad spend, it's very important matrix. It's the measuring the revenue that is generated for every dollar spent on advertising.
Right.
Also the ROI, which is the overall profitability of the marketing efforts or investments, by comparing the revenue that is generated against the total marketing investments.
Yes.
And last matrix, which is the most popular and the hardest one, is the lifetime value, or the customer lifetime value, which is
Yeah.
a very specific matrix, and it is, I guess, it's the most important one of them, because it is measuring the total revenue of the customer expected to generate the
Right.
total revenue throughout their whole relationship with your business. So the lifetime
Understood.
value is extremely important metric, and calculations of the lifetime value is a bit complicated, and it is different from an industry to another. You have to define the time period, you have to define the average purchase value and the frequency of these purchases, and then you calculate the customer value from the findings that you have got. And again, it differs from an industry to another because many industries are calculating the customer lifetime value with ways or tools that they invented
Right.
internally. So there isn't one equation for calculating the customer lifetime value. It is the average lifespan of your customer. You calculate the average lifespan of your customer, and you multiply it by the value of this customer, this specific customer. This is,
Right.
I think, in short, how can you start to calculate your customer lifetime value?
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Ahmed. I mean, I think these metrics that you've laid down from the basic ones, the old schools, to the new ones that are there, I think the budding performance marketers amongst our listeners would really take few nuggets from that for sure. But just moving on to your profile right now, and talking about performance marketing a bit, and possibly clubbing it with personalization, right? Uh, how do you see personalization in performance marketing, first of all? I mean, when it comes to A/B testing, or just in terms of brand visibility when you're showing an ad, what would you prefer, a carousel ad or a doc ad, or something, or a video or something of that sort? How do you take that decision for, say, a particular segment, or how do you personalize these ads?
Okay. I guess that in brands, for example, a lot of personalization happens also digitally because the brands needs to deliver targeted ads or targeted messages to their customers and their audience because they are looking for higher engagement rates. They
Hmm.
are looking for higher conversion rates, and to
Right.
do this, you have to personalize your messages to your audience and dig deeper after this. So it is implemented for sure in performance marketing, the personalization. You implement it by maybe starting with segmentation. You divide your audience to meaningful segments so that you can read those segments and you can understand those segments because you will tailor messages to those segments.
Right.
And you can also know the profitability of those segments compared to others. So I think that segmentation is the first step to do
Hmm.
in applying the personalization in performance marketing. Then creating the content. After you do the segmentation, you have to be extremely dynamic in the creating the content for sure, especially for the ads, because personalization techniques are always dynamic. So you have to be very quick and dynamic in changing the ad messages to tailor the user on the specific platform that the user is in right now. He's checking content right now in maybe on social media or on Google search, for example, searching for a term or for something. So the content of your ads should be extremely dynamic. The user can be in different location, in different area. So you have to tailor your messaging content to the location that the user is in. Every country have lots of locations that speaks slightly different language. Like here in Egypt, for example, we have Upper Egypt, we have Delta, we have Cairo, we have Alexandria. Every region from those are speaking a bit different language too. So by doing this personalization, uh, I think it would be extremely beneficial for your brand and for your whole performance marketing strategy. A/B testing for sure. A/B testing, it is extremely important.
Right.
I can do a whole podcast for the A/B testing alone because it is one of the most important inventions I can say in digital marketing. You test
Right.
a segment compared to another segment and see what is working and what is not.
Yes.
Because actually everything can be working for a segment, but for another segment, it could not be working for a specific reason. The only thing that will show you what is working and what is not with numbers is performing A/B testing. I think that
Understood.
it is the most important thing. Also, by creating the dynamic landing pages, you should have always dynamic landing pages because the user should land on a page that is matching what he already saw, what he is already interested in. So I think this is also a very important subject.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Ahmed. I think you talked about, A/B testing and segmentation. Uh, since we're talking about personalization and all the various strategies that one uses for personalization, we'll not do justice to the podcast if we not talk about data, which are considered to be the building blocks for anything per se. So I would
Yeah,
like to
sure.
ask you how, as a performance and a growth marketer, are you
Mm.
leveraging have you or how have you leveraged data in your roles to drive personalization?
Sure, data is, as you said, it is the most important thing that you rely on when you are doing personalization, because without data, you can't even do segmentation or personalization or take decisions based on this data.
Right.
Because in performance and in growth marketing, data insights are very important to analyze the customer behavior, the
Hmm.
preferences, and the trends, and everything. By understanding these patterns, marketers can make data-driven decisions. So your decisions should be driven by data, not driven by your thoughts or what you heard about or anything. It is only data that you can rely on when you are
Right.
taking decisions in your business and in performance marketing specifically. Also, the data helps you in tracking and in analysis. Without data, you can't track or you can't analyze anything. You can track and analyze the performance of your campaigns and your marketing and performance campaigns through data only. So, without data, it will be very difficult to analyze the performance of your spent budget spent. Also, the segmentation.
Hmm.
It is very important to have data to do proper customer segmentation. So the customer base itself, you can base it or you can segment it into groups based on attributes like demographics or behavior or purchase
Right.
history or everything that you like based on the data that you have. And this is very important thing in actually in spending and in performance marketing, because as we said before, we will target each segment with a whole exclusive content and with a different tone of voice and with different landing pages, and it will be a separate journey for every segment.
Yes.
And the A/B testing, for sure, without data you can't do A/B testing and you can't do experimentations. So by having data, you can do proper A/B testing and experimentation also. So I think that yeah, it's extremely important data, and we are using it yeah, in every day in our jobs, track our spend and to optimize more and to reach more results that we are aiming for, and to predict also, which is something very important. With data, you can do predictive analysis. You can have predictive models to forecast the customer behavior, because it is now you should do predictive analysis also along with your marketing strategy to predict what the users are going to do in the future. This is something that is very important.
Understood. It's interesting that you talked about, predictive analytics, because I was going to come into that, and you talked using data in different ways, right? When it comes to
Mm.
segmentation or A/B testing. And before that, also we talked about a lot of things in terms of how, as a performance marketer and a growth marketer, you are doing certain strategies whose bedrock possibly is data, as a matter of fact. Moving on to my last question of the day, Ahmed, and this is something that I would take from the predictive analytics point that you mentioned. I just want
Mm.
to understand, from your point of view, what is the future of personalization? What are some of the trends that you see? right?
Mhm.
And with technology which is enabling a marketer like you to predict the next move of the customer, instead of being reactive, you are trying to be active in a
Mm.
way. So how do you see technology in say 2023 and beyond playing a role in performance marketing and growth, and helping performance marketers personalize further?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Nice question, to be honest, because in the time being, we are seeing a whole new level of tools and the future. I think that by seeing all of those tools and machine learnings and everything, the future is going to be more complicated and more easy in the same time. But we have to learn about the tools that we are seeing, because it's very important that you learn how these tools work and how can you benefit from them. Like I think that the first thing that I can see that is now and in the future is coming, the AI.
Right.
As you know, for sure, AI is taking over the internet. Everybody's talking about AI and machine learning and how to use this in their job, whether it is business, agriculture, everything is using AI currently, I guess. And in digital marketing, I think that AI is very important because it can automate a lot of processes.
Right.
It can help you also optimize your marketing spend and your campaigns. It can help you with insights, with content, with many things. By using AI properly, I think that you can have a better. It's like you can say AI. I can see AI like a personal assistant that is extremely fast and extremely smart.
Right.
If you see AI this way, I think that you will benefit the most from it. It is a personal assistant. It is not
Yes.
here to replace you. It is here to assist you. So I think this is a very important thing to keep in mind when you think about AI and the new tools that are getting in our lives every day
Yes.
with AI. When you use these tools to help yourself, not to rely on those tools, I think you will make a huge difference in it.
Understood.
Also, I think I see that something that is very interesting that is coming is the voice technology. Alexa, Siri, everything that is coming through voice. This is currently changing the search industry because people are no longer searching Google and typing what they want. They are searching using the voice assistants. So
Yes.
the voice technology, I think that is one of the most important things that are expected to impact the performance marketing by changing the way that people search for information online. Also, I can see AR and VR
Hmm.
very interesting opportunity, especially that we can see that Meta is relying big
Yes.
time on AR and VR. I think that they will have a very big chunk of the investments in in the future, in the near
Hmm.
future, not in the far future. Maybe next year we can see a whole ad that is done with AR,
Yes.
and it will be, I think, a very new and different experience that we have never seen before. And I will be glad to do this ad, to be honest, yeah, because it is the future. You can't go away with this. You have to learn about this, and you have to be very dynamic and very quick to cope with the technologies that are coming up every day. So I think that AR and VR also are one of the top future trends that are happening in performance marketing.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I think one interesting point of the lot that you raised was around AI, and AI, of course, is there. You know, the Chat GPTs and the Bards are coming into the
Mm,
picture, but something that you possibly, I would say, your food for thought or your 2 cents on AI that you said, it is a very efficient personal assistant. So
yes,
I think as we close this podcast, I would like to leave the viewers with the view that AI is probably not a protagonist but has a supporting role which will possibly make your life more efficient, right? But
yes,
on that
agree.
note, Emma, thank you so much. You shared so many nuggets around personalization, performance marketing, and I had mentioned that that a lot of budding performance marketers will take inspiration from this podcast. But I think overall the whole marketing fraternity would be really intrigued by what you've mentioned and how things are going to be in the future. So on for that, thank you so much, Ahmed.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and really, I hope that people can find it informative. And yeah, for sure, thank you so much for your time and for the opportunity. Thank you.
I'm sure they will find it really informative. On that note, viewers, thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and please do stay tuned. We have a very exciting lineup coming up in a couple of weeks again. So, on that note, thank you so much. Stay safe and take care.